If you've been gardening for any length of time, you've probably had that moment where you stare at a bag of overpriced premium potting mix and think, there has to be a better way. At Rootshaven Grounds, we're all about simple, powerful, soil-first methods that actually work in real gardens, not just in glossy ads. Today we're digging into the story of what some gardeners dramatically call the banned $2 soil mix, a dirt-cheap blend that can seriously boost plant growth when used right. Now, let's clear the air. This mix isn't illegal, and no one's going to kick down your garden gate for using it. The banned part comes from how aggressively certain natural soil building methods have been sidelined in favor of synthetic fertilizers and commercial growing media. When gardeners learn how to build living soil from low-cost, local ingredients, they buy fewer bags and bottles. That shift doesn't exactly thrill big agricultural suppliers, so this knowledge slowly faded from the mainstream. But not from backyard gardens like ours. Let's bring it back. At its heart, this mix is about feeding the soil, not just the plant. It's built from 3 humble, inexpensive ingredients that work together to create a living, nutrient-rich environment. Roots absolutely love finished compost, worm castings, or rich manure compost, and biochar or charcoal fines. When combined properly, these materials create a soil ecosystem that holds nutrients, improves structure, and supports massive microbial life. The result? Faster root development, stronger stems, and noticeably more vigorous growth, sometimes dramatically faster than plants grown in plain garden soil or basic potting mix. The reason it can be so cheap is simple. All 3 components can be made or sourced locally. Compost comes from kitchen scraps and garden waste. Worm castings come from vermicomposting or well-aged manure. Biochar can be made from burned plant material that's been properly cooled and crushed. You're turning waste into black gold. When people say plants grow 8 times faster, they're usually talking about early-stage growth and overall vigor, not that a tomato ripens in 1 week instead of 2 months. What really happens is that seedlings establish faster, roots spread more aggressively, and plants hit their stride earlier in the season. The secret is biology. Compost introduces a diverse community of beneficial microbes. These microbes break down organic matter into forms plants can absorb. Worm castings add even more microbes, along with plant-available nutrients and natural growth hormones that stimulate root and shoot development. Biochar acts like a long-term habitat for those microbes. Its porous structure holds water, air, and nutrients like a sponge, making them available to roots over time instead of letting them wash away. Instead of force-feeding plants with synthetic salts, you're building a self-regulating soil food web. Roots don't just sit in dirt, they partner with fungi and bacteria that help them access nutrients more efficiently. And honestly, that's where the explosive early growth comes from. Commercial agriculture, and later home gardening marketing, shifted heavily towards soluble fertilizers because they're fast, predictable, and, well, profitable. You apply them, plants green up quickly, and you see immediate results. The downside is that over time, these inputs can degrade soil structure, reduce microbial life, and create a dependency cycle where plants perform poorly without constant feeding. Living soil methods like this $2 mix are slower to show their magic in marketing terms, but stronger in the long run. Once your soil ecosystem is thriving, you often need fewer inputs season after season. That's not great for companies selling bags of fertilizer every month, but it's fantastic for your wallet and your soil. So the method wasn't, actually banned, it was just kind of overshadowed and, honestly, undertaught. The beauty of this blend is, well, its flexibility. You're not chasing some perfect lab formula here, you're building a balanced, living medium. Start with well-finished compost. It should be dark, crumbly, and have that earthy smell, not sour or full of recognizable scraps. This is going to form the bulk of your mix and provide all that organic matter and those helpful microbes. Next, add worm castings or some very well-aged manure compost. This part is more concentrated in nutrients and microbial life, so you'll want to use a bit less of it. Think of it as a biological booster, really supercharging the mix. Finally, incorporate biochar that's been charged. Fresh biochar can actually tie up nutrients at first, So, it's best to soak it in compost tea, diluted urine, manure tea, or just mix it into compost for a few weeks before using. Once it's charged, it acts as a long-term reservoir for nutrients and microbes. A simple working ratio a lot of gardeners love is about 2 parts compost, 1 part worm castings or rich manure compost and 1 part charged biochar. Mix it all together thoroughly, moisten it just a bit, and let it sit for a week or 2 if you can swing it. That resting time gives the microbes a chance to settle in and start building a living network. So, this mix really shines in raised beds, container gardens, and even transplant holes. For seedlings, blending a bit of this living mix with your regular garden soil makes an ideal transition zone where roots can quickly colonize and expand. In raised beds, you can use it as a top layer, or just mix it right into the top 15 to 20 centimeters of soil. Over time, worms and water will help distribute its benefits even deeper into the bed. In containers, combining it with materials that improve drainage like coarse sand or rice hulls gives you a balanced potting medium that holds nutrients without getting waterlogged. You don't need to replace all your soil at once, really. Even just adding this mix gradually each season builds long-term fertility. Gardeners using living soil blends like this often report thicker stems, darker leaves, and stronger resistance to stress. Plants just seem to bounce back faster from heat, inconsistent watering, or minor pest pressure. And yields tend to improve not just in quantity, but in quality. Better flavor, better texture, and longer harvest windows. And the biggest difference shows up underground. When you pull up a finished crop, you'll notice dense, fibrous root systems instead of thin, struggling roots. Healthy roots equal healthy plants. It's that simple. The most common mistake is using immature compost. If it still smells bad or heats up when piled, it can harm roots instead of helping them. Always use finished, stable compost. Another mistake is overdoing nutrient-rich ingredients like fresh manure or too many castings. More isn't always better. This is about balance and biology, not dumping nutrients. Finally, don't forget that soil is just one piece of the puzzle. Sunlight, watering habits, and crop choice still matter, This mix gives plants a powerful foundation, but good gardening practices really bring it all together. What I love most about this method, and why it fits perfectly with the Rootshaven Grounds mindset, is that it puts control back in your hands. You're not dependent on expensive inputs or fancy labels. You're building soil from local, natural materials and working with nature instead of against it. That's empowering, honestly, and it's sustainable, whether you're growing in a tiny backyard, a few containers, or a larger homestead plot. The so-called banned $2 soil mix isn't a magic trick. It's a return to soil wisdom that gardeners have used for generations. Feed the soil, and the soil feeds the plants. When you focus on life below the surface, everything above it thrives. If this kind of practical soil-first gardening speaks to you, you're in the right place. Make sure you subscribe to Rootshaven Grounds, share this with a fellow gardener who's tired of overpriced garden products, and let's keep growing smarter, richer soil together.